are listening to Castles and Cryptids, where the castles are haunted and the cryptids are cryptic as fuck. And I'm one of your hosts, Alanna.
I'm the other one, Kelsey.
We like to switch it up. And this is episode 75. And here we are. Podcast
Yeah,
still well and alive.
I can't believe it. Another
Yay.
milestone.
It's a pretty big one. I didn't even really think
Yeah.
about it. I just was like, yeah, we're in our 70s. It's cool, cool, cool.
Yeah,
Another week, another episode.
right?
Yeah. It's probably actually 77 or something if we were to actually count them all up.
Yeah, because we've done a few part twos and then we started keeping
Yep.
it separate episode numbers for some of them, but some of them we did do like episode whatever part one and episode that same episode number part two.
Like, because sometimes on Good
So,
Pods it'll say we have like, yeah, a few more episodes than everywhere else
mhm.
says. I think it counts it quite literally. Hang on, I'll see what it says we have. Good old Good Pods.
Yeah, that should tell how many things we've posted.
It says we're at 78 episodes, but that might be
Okay.
counting the trailer.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. But speaking of which, we were doing still pretty good on that the other day. We've been in the top 100 overall chart like for a few weeks
Really
now.
cool.
Yeah. Not like super high on that one. Like we do way better on the true crime one, but
Yeah.
like top 100 overall is still pretty cool.
Yeah, considering how many podcasts there are, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and this is ones that people like. This is like obviously this is specifically Good Pods in indie podcasts
Hmm.
because like you can toggle, it'll show you indie only or not.
Yeah.
Right now on my profile it's telling me we're 97th in the overall top, but I'll go into it because that's usually it's like a little bit inaccurate. No, it's not. We actually are 97th today. Okay. Well,
Mm.
the other day it said we were like that and we were like 88th or something.
Oh, okay.
Damn it. Now I
Needs a
have to
bit
look
of
up.
a refresh.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Hang on now. I want to know what we are in true crime because that one's much better. I tell you, you guys, we're doing good. We love all the reviews. Well, what are we talking about this week? I'll tell you in a second what we're at in the charts.
We are doing some ritualistic murders and kind of the satanic panic
Mm,
things going on.
yeah, they kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
The satanic panic was bound to come up.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
well, this week we're just 19 in the true crime one, so we have slipped from the top 10. We need your 5 stars again, people. Please
5 stars.
keep them
Yay.
coming. Yeah. um, yeah, ritual crimes, which is perfect for beginning October, I think.
Yeah, this will
And
be the first episode in October, the 7th.
and we haven't done anything like specifically like this yet, ritual crimes. So,
No, we did like a couple cult ones, and some of those were murdery, but
yeah,
they kind of go together. I mean, most of these things involve a lot of kind of cult type things going on, so
yeah, that intersects in my case. Like, because
yeah,
you just
mine's a
search for
cult.
it and
Yeah.
yeah, that's what, yeah, a lot of times that's what comes up and stuff like that. So, well, um, well, I don't have anything fun prepared. I
Uh,
just thought this is going to
wah,
be a dark
wah.
one. It's going to be a dark one. Should I find us a fun fact? Or will it matter? I could find one for the end.
Sure. We'll end it with a fun fact instead of
To-
start it.
to bring us out of it.
Yeah. Bring us out of the funk.
Yeah. I have a feeling it's going to be a little dark for sure. I didn't write down too many grisly details because I don't know. I was even wild enough without that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mine's not bad. I mean,
Oh, yeah, there's still some shit.
yeah.
Don't get me wrong. But yeah, sometimes people can go really into depth about it, stuff like that. I don't know.
Oh,
We'll
yeah.
see. Yeah. I hadn't heard of mine before, and I don't know. But I don't know if you want to go first or.
Yeah, I can. As soon as whatever eyelash or something is in my eye. Hold on. Freaking jeez.
I don't know.
Then I can
Worst.
see. Huh. I can read my notes. Okay.
We're recording in the daytime, so hopefully this will be less scary for us.
Yeah. I don't want to get too scared.
Right.
So mine, I'm positive I had heard this case somewhere. And I feel like I maybe remembered where it was when I started my notes, but I don't remember anymore. So
sounded vaguely familiar. Okay.
yeah, it could have been either from, like, I don't think it would have been Wine and Crime. It could have been Crimes and Consequences or Bailey Sarian. Something
really?
like that. Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of times this, I think it's like the vampire cult murders or something they call it.
Okay, yeah. I've heard of it, but I don't know if that was only from my research. Like
Yeah, I didn't actually type
looking
it.
up.
So I'm sure it was like the vampire cult murder or something. But this is
I don't know if they've done that. I've listened to quite a bit of Wine and Crime, and while they do a wide variety
mhm.
of like everything from, dark shit to like white collar, type
Yeah.
crimes, I don't remember specifically if they have or not. Okay. Sorry, that's
Yeah.
not helpful.
That's all right. So a lot of the information I got was from Wikipedia, and then there was also a rawbrewster.com
Oh.
uh, that also was pretty helpful. And then there was a horrorobsessive.com website that had a lot of good quotes from a book that a lady named Aphrodite Jones wrote that was called The Embrace, a True Vampire Story.
Hot damn.
Yeah,
That's a
so if
cool
I ever
name.
say, yeah, Aphrodite Jones, if I ever just say Jones or Jones said or so and so is quoted or Jones quoted so and so saying, it's from the book.
Okay.
Yeah, the website was really good, had some interesting quotes and things that I didn't find anywhere else, but there is some conflicting information, so hopefully it's not confusing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
So this the main story is following that of Roderick Justin Pharrell. I'll be calling him Rod. So he was born on March 28th, 1980 in Murray, Kentucky. And
Oh.
yeah. So his mother, Sandra, was just 16 years old when when Roderick was born. And
Oh,
at the
okay.
time, at the time, she had been married to Rod's father for about 3 weeks. And then they ended up separating after just these 3 weeks. So, and
Well,
then,
they were 16. Oh my gosh.
yeah, 15 and 16.
That's I'm surprised you probably have to have your like parents consent at that age? I would hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they separated, and at this time, Sandra moved back in with her parents. So that's
Okay.
basically where her and Rod like stayed. And
Mm-hmm.
Sandra herself, when Rod was baby, was described as a pretty emotionally damaged teenager, and she was now a single mother living with her parents.
Right.
Um, Most things said that while she didn't always make the best decisions, she did really love her son, and it said that she quite often doted on him, um, at least when he was young. We'll get
Oh,
to it.
okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm
So,
sure it's all very overwhelming at first when you are a young mother, as I can
right.
attest to, but like, yeah, it doesn't mean you don't immediately attach to your baby. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
it's physical and whatever, like primal. It's just like, you're just like, oh, okay, yes, I love this thing.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I did actually put some pictures on the drive. You can go
Oh,
through.
okay.
There's pictures of Rod, him and his mom, and then the clan, which we'll
Oh,
get to. They called themselves the Vampire Clan.
oh,
Um,
right.
mhm. So, some sources did say that Sandra herself may have had some sort of unhealthy relationship with her son. There that was mentioned kind of in one thing, but I feel like it's plausible, which we'll talk about a little bit later. Some reports said
Oh,
that, yeah, Rod was molested by his grandfather, which was
oh,
mentioned in multiple of the things I read. This was corroborated by his mom and her mom, the mom's sister, or Rod's aunt, who said that they too were victims of their father or Rod's grandfather. Um,
oh my God. Like multiple
yeah.
family members were
Mm-hmm.
abused. If that's true.
Yeah. So Rod, he's now in a teenager phase. So I think a lot of this is when maybe he's starting 15, 16. Almost the entire story is when he's 16. So
Okay.
at this time, he starts believing he is some like embodiment of a 500-year-old vampire. And he says his vampire name is Vesago, 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 I guess.
Okay, sure.
Right. And he created this whole character after becoming obsessed with the vampire role playing game called Vampire the Masquerade.
Oh no.
And mhm.
It's a good game. Don't use it
Is
for
it?
evil.
I've never played it. I feel like I did play some sort of vampire like role playing game for like a couple weeks or something.
Yeah. I think it was a computer one mostly.
Yeah.
I think Pat played it.
Right.
I don't know that I played it, but I saw stuff or like I don't know. It seemed cool.
Yeah, I just remember by the time I was like age 10, I think I was playing Diablo with my dad. So, I mean, so
Okay.
yeah, that was mine was Diablo and then a different game called Nox, Nox that I bought like a bootleg version of it because it was discontinued. Um and it was like a bootleg version of it that was edited to work with Windows 10, which was pretty cool. But I think I have Windows 11 now, so it won't work anymore. But I can mail it back to them and they'll reformat the game for me. I just,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
So they're all vampire games.
No, these ones are, um, it's like more magical. So, in Diablo, there's different characters. You can be like a knight, you can be
Oh,
like wizards, stuff like that. And then same with Nox, there was like
okay.
different ones. You could be like a wizard, um, stuff like that. And then it goes through all the
Cool,
levels.
cool.
Yeah. Anyway,
Nice.
so the Vampire Masquerade game he got into because his mom Sandra it was actually the one who introduced him to the game. And
Aww.
yeah, the
Family that plays
two,
together stays together.
right?
Hopefully.
So she used this kind of as a way to bond with Roderick, and they bonded over vampire movies. And at this time, Rod described himself as having a love-hate relationship with his mom. And
Oh.
mhm,
Ruh-roh.
yeah. So while attending high school, Rod met fellow classmate and fellow vampire enthusiast, I called him, Jaden Murphy, who, uh,
Okay.
yeah, he himself actually led a group of teens who engaged in what they called consensual bloodletting and spoke about their vampiric beliefs and experiences. Um, so they had a
Wow,
little group.
that's a lot. It's
Right.
super goth.
Yeah, super goth.
But
Uh,
like, yeah, people experiment with some dark shit and then like you're just hoping
yeah.
it's still safe and healthy. I
Right?
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Jaden's group, they were very against hurting any sort of animals, or humans, and they valued
Okay, good.
all life. So they were not doing anything involving animals. They weren't hurting animals. Nothing. He didn't allow anything. That's not what they were about. Um,
Okay.
which is good,
He's but they are cutting each other?
basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just making sure it
Yeah.
was the
Just
same
each other.
group we were talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just each other. So
Okay.
Jaden says that people initially in town tried to get him and Rod to fight. Um,
Oh.
yeah, because they thought Rod would kind of like fight against Jaden because Jaden was leading this group and stuff like that. But the opposite basically happened. The two ended up becoming really good friends, and Rod was then even initiated into Jaden's group.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seems
So,
good.
eh, I mean, it's not bad. Jaden's group is not bad. They never do anything bad.
Yeah, teenagers are
Um,
so volatile though. I'm sure, yeah, I'm
yeah,
waiting for anything to blow up at any moment always.
right. So a few months later, Jaden says that he began to distance himself from Rod when his behavior started to become pretty erratic, and he witnessed him also killing a cat,
Oh,
um,
not
which I
cool.
won't get in the details of because I found them. But yeah, he killed a
Mm.
cat in front of Jaden, and so Jaden basically kicked him out of the group, saying this went against their beliefs and he wasn't allowed anymore. After this,
Whoa.
Jaden had a physical altercation with Rod in September of 1996. Um, and in an
Okay.
interview with Kentucky Teenage Vampires, both Jaden and Rod described this incident or fight that they had, with Rod threatening Jaden. Jaden grabbed him and shoved him up against a wall. And then Jaden ended up serving 6 months in jail for assault.
Oh my
So I guess it
gosh.
witnessed. Yeah,
Okay. Well, it's escalating. I mean, somebody always gets punished even though they're both participating at that point,
right. Yeah.
usually. Yeah. Okay.
Shortly after this, in the first week of November 1996, there were puppies that were found mutilated in the back of a Callaway County Humane Society in town. And
No.
yeah, police brought Rod in for questioning, but he denied any involvement. Um, it's not like pinned on him or anything like that. It just is mentioned that this was happening at the same time and it could have been him.
Right.
Um,
Well, that's not something
yeah,
that happens on the regular. So,
right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy because it was somebody.
Yeah. Around this
Shit.
time, yeah. Around this time, Rod was taking PCP, LSD, as well as heroin.
Oh
And
no.
yeah, not good. People who knew him said that he became extremely violent while under the influence of really anything, even just drinking alcohol. And
Yeah, so he's got a lot of anger in him, no matter what lets it out. Okay.
yeah. So Rod, about this time, was suspended for skipping school and a bunch of other reasons, but they were basically just school reasons.
Yeah.
And at this time, his mother, Sandra, filed something called a Beyond Parental Control report, which I had never heard of before. I assume it's probably just saying she can't control him. And
Yeah, so it's like, what does that do, I wonder?
I'm not sure. I had never heard of this before. So she also said to the police that Rod was verbally abusive and had threatened to kill her. And she said or told police that he was leading a satanic cult in town.
Okay, wow. So that's a lot that she's
Right.
claiming to be dealing with. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten to the cult yet. These are just like some other shit that's going on. So I tried to keep it in
yeah.
order, so it's a little confusing because sometimes people are like talking about something, but you're like, that didn't happen till after. Yeah. But Sandra
No, it makes
herself.
sense because you always need some backstory. So that was, I thought it was good to get that. Yeah.
Yeah, Sandra herself, not great. In
Okay.
November, yeah, this is just gross. Sandra, in November 12th, 1996, was charged with soliciting rape and soliciting sodomy after she sent a sexually explicit letter to Jaden Murphy's 14-year-old brother, Jamie.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
A letter? Okay,
A
what
letter.
the fuck?
So the Murphy's like mom pressed charges after her sons, Jaden and Jamie, showed her the letters. She also found out that Sandra had set up a shrine in her house with pictures of Jamie that she had surrounded with candles and incense. Gross.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
I guess the letter wasn't the weirdest thing she did to try and seduce a teenager.
14-year-old. Gross.
Oh my God.
The content of the letters confirmed Rod's claims that Sandra herself wanted to be a vampire, and it's noted that Rod was disgusted by his mother's behavior in like going after Jamie like this.
Okay, good.
And Jones, her book includes the following quote from one of the letters, saying, "I long to be near you and for your embrace. Yes, Jamie, to become a vampire, a part of the family, immortal and truly yours forever." Because she grows.
Ew.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Does she
So
think that life is a vampire novel
right?
or something?
Yeah, they said I think at this time that she was 34. 36, 34.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
I'm 34.
You aren't sending notes to 14-year-olds.
You're 20 years older than him and he's the same age as your children and all of these
Yeah,
things.
only a couple years younger. Gross.
Yeah. Nope, just makes it just very weird and sick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jones, for her book, she interviewed a whole bunch of people. So she did end up interviewing Jaden Murphy, who he was quoted as saying, "Rod's problems was that he didn't listen to the laws. I accepted him into my heart as well as my life. I gave him the gift of the embrace," which was basically like turned him, but he didn't understand it. He didn't respect life, and you're supposed to respect your sire, but he would constantly break our laws. So
who is saying this?
Jaden Murphy, the one that was leading the group that they kicked Rod out of. Yeah.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
Then Rod goes and decides to form his own cult of vampires in town, and they called themselves the Vampire Clan. The group consisted of Rod, who was 16. It's noted he was always dressed in all black. They also included 16-year-old Scott Anderson, uh,
Anderson.
yeah, 19-year-old Dana Cooper, 16-year-old Charity Keese, and 15-year-old Heather Wendorf. And the clan frequently visited a dilapidated building in the middle of the woods that was covered in graffiti and had a bunch of broken windows. And this is where the clan would drink each other's blood and kind of play into Rod's fantasy that he was this 500-year-old vampire that was in charge of them, I guess.
Oh, God. Can't they just be drinking alcohol in there like normal teenagers?
Right?
I was like, okay, yeah, abandoned building. That's perfect for them.
Yeah. Heather herself later said that she didn't think any of them took the vampirism seriously,
Okay.
saying, quote, "It was something to have, something special in your life that you felt secret about." Um, I
Yeah,
have to
it's a
disagree
group.
with that. I have to disagree with
Well,
that with based on
yeah.
how they talk about even her specific things, like her home life and what she was doing at home.
Oh,
And
really?
quotes she said, I really feel like they, at least she took it very, very seriously.
But now
Because,
they're like saying, oh, yeah, it was nothing. It was
yeah,
just like an after school club.
yeah, no. Not with some of the shit she was going around saying to people.
Hmm.
So while all of the clan members looked up to and adored Rod, Rod was paying special attention to Heather. During this time, Heather may have shared some troubles that were going on at home, and this connected with Rod, who also had his past experiences, possibly with abuse.
Oh, of
Mm-hmm.
course. Not
Yeah.
surprising. Yeah.
So we jump to a few weeks later. Like, I don't know when exactly he formed this group, but like, this is like just a couple weeks or so after his mom's arrested for sending the letter to Jamie and he's kicked out of school and like all
Okay.
this stuff. So on
Yeah.
November 25th, 1996, Naomi Ruth Queen and Richard Wendorf were found beaten to death in their house by they were killed by two members of the vampire clan.
Oh,
And
God.
yeah, 49-year-old Richard had been asleep on the couch while his wife Ruth was in the shower when Rod and Scott Anderson entered the home through the unlocked garage and Rod ended up picking up a crowbar on their way through the garage into the house. So always lock the outside and inside garage door. They always
That's
talk about
true.
that.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
That's really, really shitty, though. Nobody
Yeah.
deserves to get beaten with their own tools or
Yeah. Yeah.
implements. Yeah.
So before Richard was able to wake up, Rod ambushed him while he was asleep on the couch, hitting him multiple times with the crowbar, I believe mainly to the head and chest. He fractured Richard's skull and his ribs. He was instantly knocked out and shortly after ended up dying. Um,
Damn.
th- yeah, they were then just going through the house, and Ruth found the boys, I think, in the kitchen a few moments later, and Rod ended up attacking her as well. He was bashing her in the head with the crowbar. And Rod later says in his confession that they intended to let Ruth live. However, Rod changed his mind after he says that she attacked him by lunging at him and like scratching at him and throwing a hot cup of coffee in his face. So he got mad.
Okay, bud. Like,
Yeah, right.
if they knew she was home, they obviously knew there was the
Yeah.
possibility that they would have to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sorry. You're not that
Um,
dumb.
right. There's one report that said that Rod was possibly dancing like over the couple's dead bodies after they died.
Oh.
It was only mentioned in one thing. Um,
Right, because, like, yeah, there's no way to
yeah,
know except for the people who were there.
exactly. That's a big thing about this. Scott says he tried to calm Rod and his like frenzied attacks down before they even started. However, the boys fled the house and Rod was covered in blood, and they drove away after stealing the Wendorf's car, um, which we'll get to. There's a reason for it.
Okay.
There's also multiple stories about what actually went down, and I don't
Sure.
know which one I really believe. So, their bodies were found soon after, in the house by their 17-year-old daughter Jennifer when she
Oh.
came home at about 10:30 that night. So I don't know when
Oh.
exactly they were killed, sometime in the evening.
Wow.
Richard's body was still laying on the couch in the living room with 22 head wounds in total.
Oh
So
my
he had been hit
God.
a lot of times, yeah.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Talk about overkill.
right. Ruth's body was on the kitchen floor with 23 wounds, 16 of them to her head. So also like another overkill. Just brutal.
Yeah. Very
Um,
violent.
yeah, and a crowbar, like just oh, crowbars.
Yeah.
I think is like when people use like crowbars and tire irons. I always feel like that's just worse because it's such a solid, heavy piece of metal. It
Oh,
just
for sure.
yeah,
It, this just also seems very personal because of that. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, you just
It's a
like,
close thing.
right? Or just a complete, I don't know. You can't really say they snapped because they went there on purpose. So they're just, I'm just
Yeah,
very confused about if they're just random or if there was a different motivation other than their
yeah.
own vampire craziness.
There's a bit. We'll get to it in just a tiny bit. So Richard's body also had burn marks in the shape of a V, which it's
Oh.
reported to be used by Rod as like his symbol. And it was surrounded by a dot for each of the other cult members.
Oh,
So
because
this
of
was
his
like
vampire
burned.
name or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
What the fuck? Uh,
I was like, I
and
don't get it. His name is Rod.
yeah, yeah. Um, and if we didn't catch it, because I tried not to make it too obvious, the parents or the people that were killed were the parents of Heather Wendorf, who's in the vampire cult.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. But it's
So,
terrible.
yeah, she is a longtime friend of Rod's, a member of the cult, and it's reported
Yeah.
that this all happened when he was supposedly supposed to be helping Heather run away from home, as she described like her living there as like a hell and says that she was being abused in some way. However, no evidence has ever been found to support that there was ever any abuse towards Heather.
Oh
Um,
no.
yeah.
That's not good.
Mm-hmm.
She
So,
just could have been, you know, taken up with this guy and like caught up in it and like, oh yeah, my parents
yeah.
suck and like, just making up
Right?
stories. Yeah.
Yeah, what teenager isn't like my parents suck. They always tell me to do the dishes. Like
Right, at least at
fuck.
some point. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're always gonna have like that one thing you're ashamed of, or like you're like, wow, yeah, I would have wanted to kick my ass too.
Right? Police also discovered there was a goodbye note that Heather had left that was addressed to her sister and her parents. I don't know where it was found in the house, but part of the note was saying that she loved them all very much.
Oh,
Um, so this can play in, which we'll
okay.
get to kind of later, of was it a note because she was supposed to be running away and this was her goodbye to them, telling
Yeah.
them, I love you all? Or did she know what they were going to do when they entered the house? And was this a goodbye to them before they died? There's big arguments about that.
Like that she presented
Because,
them with a letter before they were killed or something?
or left it there. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
for some, I don't know exactly how. There's a few things that just don't make sense in this one.
Right.
Um, Heather and the other girls in the cult were not at the home when the murders took place. Again, it was just Rod and Scott.
I mean,
Charity.
She definitely knew, though.
Yeah,
Like,
I don't
Heather.
understand how she couldn't have known.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure it was her.
Um,
If not her idea, at least she didn't stop it.
yeah, there's some weird things about like when I say he left the house covered in blood because he hit her parents like over 40 times with a crowbar and then gets
Yeah.
into a car, picks her up from her boyfriend's house. So I'm like, how'd you hide all the fucking blood? Like, kind of thing when
Yeah.
he's like, because he even says later on, he's quoted being like, oh yeah, I was covered in blood. And it's like, okay. And then it's not until like days later that they supposedly tell her, oh, by the way, when I stole the car, I killed your parents. Haha. Like, no, I don't believe that.
Yeah.
But
Liar.
yeah, so there's never been any evidence of Heather being abused. Um, not to say it possibly didn't happen, but haven't uncovered any. Heather and
Yeah.
the other girls weren't at home. Charity and her friend Dana, who was also affiliated with the cult, during this like murder, had taken Heather over to her boyfriend's apartment so that Heather could say goodbye to him before the whole clan was supposed to leave on a road trip to New Orleans.
Okay.
And the police were called, obviously, by Heather's sister when she found the bodies, and investigators were questioning Jennifer, the sister, and her close friend of Heather's, Janine Leclerc, who was also another friend of Rod's. She wasn't part of the cult, but she knew about it. And
Okay. She was cult adjacent.
yeah, because they did ask her if she wanted to go with them on the road trip, and she said no.
Oh.
So, um, police also spoke with Heather's boyfriend named Jeremy Hoover. Uh, he revealed to police
Hoover.
that Hoover,
Oh.
Hueber,
Oh,
Hoover,
sorry. I heard Hoover like with a V as in
Huber.
Victor. Yeah.
Oh no, Huber. Uh, and Jeremy revealed to police that he had spoken to Heather the night she ran away and the murders took place, and that he had
Oh.
asked her to stay in town just one last time. And she said no. And according to Jones, Jeremy says that because she also talked to him for her book, she says that
Okay.
Jeremy says he reluctantly went along with Heather's vampire fantasies. And is quoted in the book saying, there was one time when she told me that Rod believed he was some form of reincarnated demon, and he was this high power that she had to obey. Um,
Oh.
in the yeah, I think it was also in the book that she said Jeremy had decided to end the relationship with Heather after she told him that she believed she too was now a reincarnated demon. Just as Jeremy had decided to break up with her, Heather told him that she was running away with Rod and the group and they were going to go across the US basically. Um this is why I don't believe
Okay.
her thing saying later where she's like, it was all fun and games, nobody took it seriously, because she's running around being like, I'm a reincarnated demon and I have to obey him. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, sounds like she's
Yeah,
believing anything, just lapping up anything he says or whatever.
yeah.
And now she's fucked off and it's like, wait, do we hear from her again or when do we get all this testimony? Yeah, I'm just like, I want to
Yeah.
know.
They catch them all. Yeah.
Ooh.
Another quote, this is more from Jeremy, her boyfriend. Quote, she said Rod put her under some hypnotic spell like hypnosis, and she went into some other worlds, and she was in demon form, and she loved it. Heather thought she was something from hell that slaughtered people, like some form of dragon creature. Um, she
She's
says
a
when,
demon girl and she liked it.
yeah, right?
The taste of the brimstone chapstick. I've just been rewatching The Good Place.
Oh,
The
God.
most of the demons
Yeah.
look normal, and then they're having that one board meeting, and then just a big
Oh,
fiery guy that looks kind of like a lava man or like the Thing or
Yeah.
whatever from Marvel or whatever. He's like, "Oh, you guys booked the conference room? I thought I had it for 3. Okay, never mind."
Yeah. I need to rewatch that. I really liked that show until it was like it kept doing all the resets every season. That
Yeah,
it kind of like reset, and then it was just like, oh well, I don't really like shows like that do that, where it's like, oh, the last seasons don't really matter because it's reset, nobody remembers it, and it's like, oh well, stop doing that, please.
which I mean, they technically start doing it at the end of season 1 because she's like, "We're in a
Yeah,
bad place," and then he's like, "Oh fuck, reset. Let me try again. Reset. Let me
yeah,
try again. Reset." But I know what you mean. It's kind of a cop out. Yeah.
yeah.
So it gets
Um,
a bit weird.
yeah. So yeah, I think this is still from her book, from Joan's book, saying that when Heather stopped by his house when the murders were taking place with the other two girls, that Jeremy tried to talk her out of leaving town. She writes that Heather told Jeremy, I have to do whatever he says. I'm already crossed over. And he said if I don't leave now, he's going to hurt my parents. That's what
Oh
Jeremy's
my
saying. Said,
god.
yeah. So after
Okay.
leaving, yeah.
That's so crazy. It's like, what the
Yeah, there's so
fuck?
many conflicting stories. So after
Yeah.
leaving Jeremy's house, the girls took Heather to her friend Janine Leclerc's house, and Leclerc showed no interest in coming with the group to New Orleans, like I said. Jones, in her book, this was the only description I found about what Heather's home life was from the quote from the article I read that quoted the book, I guess. Um,
A quote within a quote. Yeah.
yeah. Saying that Heather's parents were, I summarized it, saying Heather's parents were struggling to raise Heather as she developed more of an interest in what I call dark behavior. Um,
Oh.
she they witnessed her multiple times cutting herself, which is sad. Um,
Yeah, but
yeah,
yeah, you could definitely just cry for attention too. That needs
yeah,
to have some help and to, she needs some attention then, obviously.
yeah. So she was also hanging inverted crosses on the walls of her bedroom.
Oh,
She was
they
also
didn't like
tying,
that.
no, they were found her tying nooses around Barbie dolls' necks, just as one does. I don't know. Um, yeah, there was
But the
some other
Barbie was the
stuff.
only doll she had around. I get
Yeah.
it. You got to work with what you have laying around the house, what you have on hand. Our Barbies
um,
used to date our street sharks because that's who we had for guys. They were like
yeah, I never
shark
had Ken
people.
dolls. It was
Yeah.
like probably stuffed animals. They married stuffed animals.
Barbie's first cryptids.
Yeah. uh,
Nice.
yeah. So, kind of from the information I read, it said they also might have been having problems with younger daughter Jennifer, who I think was just a couple years younger than Heather. Jennifer
Oh.
was cutting classes.
Oh.
She was like 14.
Oh.
She was like drinking
Sounds
heavily.
familiar.
Yeah.
I've
Drinking heavily
been there.
and uh was also cutting class to spend time with her 21-year-old boyfriend Tony. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, that's an uncomfortable age gap.
Yeah.
People don't like
Um
it when you're 14 and you're dating someone who's older, and that's what, 7 years at that point. It is
yeah.
very questionably problematic for sure.
And like don't fuck with people like I'd say like under the age of 16. Like just fucking even then, but like just
Yeah.
really. Yeah. Um
It's a very,
yeah,
very
so
vulnerable time.
yeah, her boyfriend Tony, 21. The parents didn't like him, to say the least. I can understand why, because he had previously wrecked Jennifer's brand new car while he was driving it while severely intoxicated. He had like totaled the car, and it was brand new.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
also
yeah,
not a
not
good
good.
look.
No. Um, around the time of the killings, Ruth and Richard had had enough, and it was reported in Joan's book that I don't know where they got this information from, that they were planning on having like a family discussion, sit down with the two girls, like about everybody's behavior.
Okay. They're
Mm-hmm.
having a serious talk.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we jump back to after the murders took place. So the boys go and pick up the girls, and the clan is now all together. And they drive through 4 different states in the US over the next 4 days before the group finally was found in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Um,
Oh, okay.
yeah. So they
Where did
were
they start out
believed.
again? Where were they
Uh,
to
was it
begin with?
Kentucky? Yeah, Kentucky, I
Okay,
think.
yeah. Okay, okay. So
Yeah,
they're
it's Ken.
still
I think it
south.
was in Kentucky because I didn't get into it, but um, the girls like live in one spot, and Rod like he moved around quite a bit, so he was living in a different spot. So he had like drove to a different town like to pick everybody up because they were at this
Okay.
point only communicating by like phone and stuff.
That's still not too far though. A couple states over.
Yeah. Um. Yeah. So they're found in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. They were believed to be on their way to New Orleans as
Of
one
course
of
they
this.
were. There's lots of
Yeah. As
vampires in
right.
Louisiana.
Yeah.
True
And it
blood.
said that Rod liked a video arcade there, and that's why one of the sources said they were heading there. I'd say it's probably more like the voodoo, like everything going on there. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it's got a history for sure.
yeah. They were discovered and arrested by police because Charity, the group was running out of money after these 4 days. And it said that Charity either called her mom or her grandma in order to get money for the group. By this point, it's been 4 days. They had been like on the news. Their parents all knew what had happened. So when Charity called
Yeah.
this family member asking for money, she's like, "Sure, I'll send you money. I'll send it to this place." And then she contacted the police and told them, "I'm wiring their money to this bank. They're gonna be there, so like send people there to arrest them," which is basically what they did.
Well, like, how could she be so dumb? I mean, ask your parents
Yeah.
for money all you want. I have definitely done that a million times. But, like, you're already on the run because your
Hmm.
fucking friend's parents are dead. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
So they're arrested. The clan was all held in a Baton Rouge jail for about a week before they were extradited back to Florida. Maybe they were murdered in Florida. That would make more
Okay.
sense. I don't fucking know. Uh,
We'll figure it out when we're
somewhere.
editing it back. I'll be like, oh, okay. That's what we
Yeah.
said.
There was too many like places, so maybe they were murdered in Florida. Um,
Okay,
so
perhaps we started in Kentucky, moved to Florida, and now we're on
yeah,
to
I think
Louisiana.
yeah. So
All right.
Rod initially told police that they had been framed by a ravel by a rival vampire gang.
Oh,
Um, by a ravel. Uh,
I wasn't ready for you to say a RAV4, like the vehicle or something. I
I
don't
was
know.
framed by a rav four.
Yeah, I don't know where my mind was going, but I was like, I'm gonna make this word make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's saying they were being framed by a rival vampire gang. But police, this was mentioned in only one source. Police said that they found a video of Rod weeping and laughing after the murders took place, well in another state. Um, I don't
Okay.
know.
He would be the type of person to upload a video of himself after a
Right, yeah.
crime. Like,
Yeah.
just one of those
Um,
douchebags.
Heather was telling the police that she didn't know that her parents were dead and that all they had done was steal the car and use it to drive through the 4 states with it after she had wanted to run away from home. So that's what she was telling police. I don't know nothing about my parents being dead. And Dana Cooper said that Heather did not know about the plan to kill her parents. So that was another girl in the thing. I said
Ugh.
slowly the clan fell apart and began possibly question mark telling the truth to police Because everybody
Right.
seems to not be able to agree on details.
They're certainly not a very well organized criminal unit. They're just a bunch of
Yeah.
freaking kids. Oh my god.
Yeah. So
Wow.
next I have like just a few kind of like summaries of what they say happened. The first one is that Heather had run away before to meet up with Rod and the others, only to find out that the car, her rescue ride, had broken down. So when the cult came up with the idea to steal her parents' car, Heather struck up a deal with Rod that she would go back in and unlock the house so that he could steal the keys to the car, but only if he would, quote, cross her over, an act that involved her drinking his blood, and they sealed the blood pact in a graveyard. That was one of the summaries of what came, I guess, to why he was in the house. Was he was supposed to be stealing the car keys, and then was like, "I'm just gonna murder your parents."
Oh. Okay. I was
Yeah,
like, what? And then I'm like, okay, this is just one version.
yeah.
Uh,
Um, they're all like
okay.
fairly similar. Another one was that the group had arrived with the intent to help Heather run away. After the car broke down, they decided to steal Heather's parents' car. While the girls waited outside this time, not at Heather's boyfriend's house, they're supposedly just down the street. Rod and Scott entered the home through the garage, and then Rod proceeded to kill her parents. After returning to the car where Heather's sitting, he did not tell Heather about killing her parents, and I put in brackets, how did he hide all the blood he would be covered in, question mark.
He's been gone for 8 hours. Hi, honey. What
Yeah.
took you so long?
And why are you covered in blood? Ignore that.
No, he showered.
Um,
I said that's why the
yeah.
8 hours.
Had a
I
good
don't
night's
know.
sleep,
That is
showered, made dinner.
it make no sense.
um, yeah, so that's kind of different things they say happened. Um, in February 1998, so almost 2 years or like a year and a half after, Rod was now 17. He pleaded guilty to the double slayings of the couple. Oh, from Florida. So they were living in Florida. Good job. I
Okay.
omitted too many things and confused myself. Uh, he stated that the rest of the clan, other than Scott, were all innocent and they were not involved in the killing. And then he further clarified, saying that Scott was only an accessory and he hadn't physically participated in hurting the Wendorfs. That was all him.
Oh,
Yeah. So he didn't
okay.
try and pin it on them. At least he owned up to that. His attorney tried to argue that he was insane. It is noted that he has since been diagnosed with mental disorders, including schizotypal personality disorder and Asperger's syndrome.
Right. Which is not to say that they should be able to
And he
plead
was,
guilty by
yeah,
insanity, quote unquote. That's
and he
just
was reportedly on drugs that night as well, which I'm sure did not help given his history with drugs and
sure. But he's
aggressive
now
behavior.
mentally, like, as long as they put him on the right drugs, he would be mentally sufficient enough to stand trial. So, I mean, I think
Yeah.
I hope you can't say that that means he's too insane. You know what I mean? Like, so they can put you in a mental facility instead of jail because you're like
Well,
guilty by
it's at
reason
the
of insanity or whatever.
it's at the time of the crime. They have to prove you didn't understand the difference between right and wrong at the time of the crime. So even if they gave him drugs and he like got better now, it was at the time of the crime.
Sure, so I guess they could still plead that
Mm-hmm.
guilty by insanity plea.
It's so
Okay, because
confusing.
there's,
Yeah.
well, yeah, because then there's like whatever I'm
I
talking
think
about. There's also sometimes when they're not fit to stand trial and then they
yeah,
have to go to like a
that's
mental place. I
that's
don't
at
know.
time of trial. It's so confusing. We're not lawyers. Uh
Exactly. I know. I like listening to that's why we like listening to podcasts where they are lawyers
yeah.
sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Um as well, the University of Florida, it said that they also attested that Rod could sometimes witness spiritual things like angels and demons. I'm sure that's probably just that schizotypal personality disorder, whatever that means. It's probably just seeing things.
Who knows?
Yeah, all the drugs, all the LSD and PCP he's taking,
He
uh,
can be a
and
pathological liar
heroin.
also. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, he obviously likes to be in control of other people.
Mm-hmm.
So, Hard to say.
Yeah. During the trial, they also said that Rod experienced blackouts that could last for hours and that he didn't ever remember anything that happened during them. However,
Ugh.
Rod's mother came forward. Oh, this is, why did I put this together? That seems like it's supposed to be, this is totally a separate thing.
Okay, but no, the blackouts, yeah. And this
Yeah.
is obviously they're not talking about blackouts with the assistance of alcohol, because,
Yeah,
that's
no.
different.
Yeah. Um,
Well,
yeah, I don't know
slightly.
why I used the word however, because that seems like it ties in with this, but it does not at all.
Okay.
Rod's mother came forward and said that Heather had been talking about wanting her parents dead for a really long time.
Maybe you were trying to
Um,
write Heather. You
yeah,
wrote
however,
however.
yeah, Rod experiences blackouts. However, Rod's mom says that Heather talked
You
about her
sh-
parents being dead.
you should see my like handwritten jotted down notes. I start
Oh, God.
writing like in cursive
Yeah.
versus printing, and then like I
Oh,
switch letters around, and I'm like, am I dyslexic now? Just going
yeah.
too fast.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Yeah, so Sandra's now trying to say that Heather had wanted her parents dead for a long time. This she ended up recanting later on after she failed a polygraph test, and then she says she made all that shit up. There was also two girls that came forward and basically said the same thing that police completely discredited.
Oh,
So I didn't
okay,
bother
great.
mentioning that, but um,
Oh,
during
okay.
trial, they said that Rod had been high on drugs and drunk the night of the killing. Um, Not that that excuses it. Rod's boot
No,
prints in the Wendorf's blood was found at the scene on the floor, along with them finding his DNA under Ruth's fingernails, because she had like scratched him. And
sure.
then he
Yeah, there
had
should be
also
lots of evidence.
yeah,
Sorry.
he had also confessed at the time of his arrest. So this is what he is saying happened. Kind of a little bit. I don't know. He seems like a piece of shit and is very
Yeah.
erratic in like what he's saying because he said, quote, by the time, it was pretty obvious. I had blood on me and a crowbar in my hand. I was fixing to say, yeah, I want to have coffee with you, son of a bitching smartass. But anyway, then that's when she lunged at me because I was actually going to let her live, but after she lunged at me, I just took the bottom of the crowbar and kept stabbing it through her skull. And whenever she fell down, I just continually beat her until I saw her brains falling on the floor because that pissed me off.
Oh my God.
Like, and there was no punctuation other than commas in that entire paragraph. So it's very rambly.
Wow.
Uh,
What a loser.
yeah. So upon his plea, the um of saying guilty, right? That's what I said. Yeah, he pleaded guilty. um so upon that, the record, like court record, supposedly says that his mom from somewhere shouted, quote, "We live forever." She fucked up in head. She's so crazy. I don't know
We
what's going on with the mom. We live forever.
But this is the pervert mom, the
Yeah.
pedophile type mom.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yes, she's still alive. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. There's the other
Um,
parents.
yeah.
Heather's that died. A
Um,
lot of
so
lot of stuff going on there.
Right?
Wow.
Yeah, there's so much. It is noted that police apparently, I don't know, from some of the information released, I guess they summarized to believe that Heather was not aware that her parents were supposed to be killed. She wasn't in on it and didn't know because Heather is the only member of the group who was never charged with anything. Um,
Okay,
which
but
confuses me a bit.
why?
They sufficiently believed she was not involved, I guess, but yet they charged the other two girls. Like, and if Heather wasn't involved, then how involved were these other two girls that also supposedly weren't at the scene? So why the fuck did they get charged then? Makes no sense.
No, and
Yeah.
wasn't her story that she was supposed to leave town or they would kill her parents.
Yeah.
So if she did leave town, why did they then still supposedly kill her parents or whatever?
Yeah, that was what she supposedly had told her boyfriend, according to her boyfriend. Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
yes. That is a lot. That
Yeah.
is complicated and
Um,
clearly, yeah, a lot of people aren't telling the truth. But
yeah, there's something shady.
oh
So
yeah. But then you
Rod,
got the DNA evidence, like
yeah, he
we know for
100%
sure.
was at the
Yeah.
scene and involved. So Rod
Yeah.
was convicted of felony murder, burglary, and armed robbery. Um, he was
Okay.
sentenced to death and became the youngest person on death row at the time. I think they said that lasted about 2 years.
How
His
old was
sentence,
he?
he was sentenced at 17. Yeah.
Yeah, because like that's not even considered legally an adult. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so he was the youngest person on death row for like 2 years, and then somebody else I think was sentenced. His sentence was later reduced to life without parole in 2000.
Okay.
Charity was convicted of 2 counts of third-degree murder. Again, she may not have. She supposedly, according to everybody, wasn't even in the house. She was also charged with robbery with a gun or a deadly weapon and burglary armed with a weapon or explosives.
Oh,
Like,
or
and shoot,
explosives.
yeah, or
We'll just throw
explosives.
that in there.
You're right. She was sentenced to 10.5 years. And then Dana Cooper, the other girl who wasn't at the scene, was convicted of the same charges as Charity and was sentenced to 17.5 years.
Oh.
Like, right? And you're saying,
All
as
over the
far as you
place.
know, like these two girls went on a fucking road trip in a stolen car. That's essentially
Sure.
what, according to everybody, they did.
Yeah, what is this, like
Scott,
a sliding scale of how much you talk is how much you get off your
yeah,
sentence?
I guess, yeah. Scott Anderson, who was the only other person in the house with Rod, was convicted of the same charges as Rod and was also sentenced to life in prison. Um, I don't think he was sentenced to the death penalty, but he was always sentenced to life in prison. Even like, even though he supposedly
Okay.
didn't even touch the crowbar. Charity, yeah. So Charity
Wild.
was released from prison in 2006, and Dana was released in 2011. Just
Okay.
summarizing kind of where everybody ended up from what I could find. After her parents' death, Jennifer, Heather's younger sister, lived with her devoutly religious aunt and uncle. The family, like, I don't know how much Jennifer maybe wanted to have to do with Heather, but the aunt and uncle wanted nothing to do with Heather. And according to Jones, the author of the book, Jennifer was very unhappy there, and the aunt and uncle had forbid contact between the sisters. For Heather, who never went to prison, she lived with her grandmother, Gertrude Adams, for a few weeks. Um,
Grandma
and
Gert. That's what I used to call
yeah,
my great grandmother,
oh,
Gertrude. Yeah. Or Nanny Great
Gertrude's
sometimes.
a good
Yeah.
name. I like it. Um,
Nice.
So Heather was admitted to a psychiatric hospital after Adams, her grandmother, attempted to shoot her. I would like to know more about that. Uh, just a few
You are just
weeks,
throwing all this information at me. I'm like, what? What?
right?
What is happening
Uh,
here?
yeah. And
Oh my
then
god.
after her release from the psychiatric hospital, Heather went and lived with a foster family. Heather gave an
Okay, and
interview to
someone
the
tried to shoot her, you said?
her grandmother after she only lived with her for a couple weeks after her parents were
Oh.
murdered. Yeah, brutal.
Not great.
No.
Okay.
That's why I'm like, I want to know what the fuck Heather was doing.
Okay,
Like,
gotcha.
what was going on. Um, yeah, so Heather in 2006 gave an interview with the Orlando Centennial. Um, that she said, quote, Heather Wendorf Kelly was cleared in her parents' 1996 murder. She's now married and living out of state. She reflects on this tragic time, and she told writer Christine Dellert that she attended art school, art school, married a local theater and film producer, and lives in North Carolina, and that she got back in touch with her family in 2002. She
Wow.
also reflected, I think in the same article, on Rod, saying, quote, "He was charming. He could tell a lie like it was the truth." And on the vampire cult, she said, "I didn't, oh, this is the same quote as before. I didn't take the whole thing seriously. It was something to have something special in your life that you felt secret about." Again, I don't buy that shit. Running
She
around
definitely
telling
was
people you're
telling the
like,
truth at the end there, I think. I think she was telling partly the truth, like you do to
yeah,
pepper in, they say with the lies, like it was something secret. I think that part she
yeah,
liked being
running
part of a
around
group.
telling your boyfriend that you're a reincarnated demon and like all this shit. I don't know. A
Anything
bit
that sounds
much.
like an exclusive club, yeah.
Yeah.
Lord.
So in 2003, an appellate court dismissed attempts by Rod and Scott to get new sentencing hearings. I can't
Okay, take.
speak no more. In December 2008, Scott was resentenced to 40 years in prison and was able to be given credit for his 22 years served and will be eligible for parole in 2031.
Oh,
Yeah.
resentence from the death penalty down. Okay.
His was life in prison. This is Scott. Um,
So
yeah, he was the
what does
one.
the resentencing mean?
He was resentenced from life in prison to 40 years. And then he was given credit for 22 of his years that he had served.
Oh, I wonder if it was life without parole, because sometimes life in
Yeah,
prison, quote unquote, can be like 25 years or something. That's
I think it was
depending
life without
where we're
parole.
talking about. Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
confusing.
yeah.
Sorry.
So Ruth's relatives, like the woman that was killed, Ruth, her relatives did attend Scott's resentencing hearing, and they said that they did not actually oppose his resentencing from life in prison, and that they were far more concerned about Rod,
Hmm.
which is nice, at least. Um,
That's who I would be concerned about also.
yeah. Jaden Murphy, if you forgot, he's the one that had the vampire cult, the first one in town.
Right, the
He,
OG.
yeah, he told the Ghost Effect in 2020,
The
that he
ghost
had
effect?
the Ghost Effect. I don't know if it. I
Nice.
don't know if that's the podcast, radio, news, magazine. I have no fucking idea.
Right, it gave you no
Um,
context. I love
no, it
it.
just said the Ghost Effect. So he said that in 2020 he had kept in touch with Rod up until about 15 years ago, and that Rod had actually been the one to cut ties with him for religious reasons. I don't know
Oh,
why he kept talking to this fucker, but whatever.
right. Oh no,
Um,
Rob stopped talking to me. Okay.
right?
Wouldn't you be like, I
Um,
dumped that motherfucker?
yeah, I would not be saying that he stopped talking to me.
Wow.
Rod's sentencing hearing was rescheduled multiple times. In 2020, a judge upheld his life without parole and deemed him irreparably corrupt. Um,
Ooh.
and according to a 2019 Daily Commercial article that was titled Florida Mother of Vampire Cult Killer, I've Changed. Uh,
Florida mother of vampire?
yeah, I think
Okay. Florida
Sandra.
mother of
Yeah,
vampire killer. That's a really awkwardly
yeah,
worded title. They could have done better.
right. Yeah. So I think it was Sandra's thing, but she might have been given a statement from Rod that was included because it said that during this article, Rod made a tearful apology to the victims' families, and that while incarcerated, Rod has taken some classes and got a wastewater treatment license. Um,
Oh.
this is I hated ending
Waste
it on this.
management. What?
Yeah, I get to
Sorry.
clean shit water. Um, it's all he deserves. Uh,
Yeah.
I hated like ending it on this, but there was just nothing really else to end it on. Continuing in the article, it said that Sandra, fucking Sandra, that a lot of women write to Rod while he's in prison. He's been married and divorced, and his current fiance showed up to one of his hearings, where she said that if he's released, she would take Rod in and help him find a job. Which I hope means he gets to go clean some shit water. And to smell like
With
shit all day.
Sandra, who was his mother?
Well, this is like her article, and he has some fiance that was also quoted in the article, or Sandra just talked about it in the article that has a fiance that showed up to a hearing and is gonna help him find a job if he's released. Fuck you.
That just goes to show you there's someone for everybody, which is amazing.
Well, he's been married and divorced while in prison, so like, gross.
Is there a word for that whole people who marry killers? Because, well, I'm sure there's like psychological terms for the like wanting to fix someone. Oh, he's a bad boy I can fix kind of complex or whatever it is. So that's just interesting.
Yeah, it's like a wild case. It might have been a Bailey Sarian video I heard from this before, but yeah, it shows up when you look up like ritualistic murders. It comes up just because of like the cult, but everything always clarifies being like it wasn't technically directly related to the cult, and there wasn't like a ritual that they were trying to accomplish and all that stuff. But
that's true. Which inadvertently we had already covered one that was a very ritualistic killing in a cult when I did the spring break guy.
Yes.
I don't remember the name now, but yes, went missing in Mexico and they found multiple bodies in a ritualistic cauldron type thing, and it was just very horrific.
I think that's one of probably the most famous ones.
Yeah, but there's so many that just are adjacent to or like have somewhat to do with some sort of ritual, and it's just it's pretty nuts. All the real life cases. We shall get to another one.
I'm excited to hear yours when we come back.
Woo. It's just as dark.
Mine wasn't too dark. I mean,
right?
What it could have been.
It's not much of a scale. It's 50 Shades of Grey. It's 50 Shades of Black.
Yeah.
All right, we are back in the saddle again.
Yep.
So mine takes place in Fall River, Massachusetts.
Yes, you told me what your case was. So I avoided it. I didn't read anything about it. So I'm excited to finally hear what this is.
I mean, I don't think I knew about it, but it is pretty wild. And even this place is the same place that, the same city that the Lizzie Borden murders took place in.
Oh, okay.
Way back in the day.
Yeah, some history.
Wow. Yeah, so then it also, it does make you clarify a little bit when you're Googling sometimes then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because Fall River's murders could sometimes bring up both.
That's fair, yeah.
But I also used to get Lizzie Borden? I think I embarrassingly was getting it confused with the Lorena Bobbitt case because they have the same initials. But one of them happened quite a while ago. And that's Lizzie Borden.
Yeah.
Apparently took an axe and gave her mother 40 whacks or whatever. So the story goes.
Yeah.
Anyway. This one happened in the 80s also. No
Ooh.
surprise there, as most of the Satanic Panic did.
Yeah.
Or well, we pick up the story on February 8th, 1980.
I got a Gordo. I was about to start cussing shit. He's awoken from his nap.
Something. It was a Gordo. Okay, so we pick up with a young woman, Karen Marsden, being picked up by police, distraught and crying. She claimed to have been a witness to several satanic rituals in the historic mill city of Fall River, Massachusetts. She was in fear for her life. She believed that her pimp would kill her if she talked to police at all.
Oh, okay.
So, right away, not
shit
good.
going down.
Yeah, at least that's how I read it and was like, okay, yeah, it's a pretty powerful place to pick it up. So they dropped her off at a church called St. Mary's Church at her own request. She didn't want to stay in police custody any longer, I guess. But she said very chillingly, if I turn up dead, it was this guy, this pimp.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And she was reported missing by her grandmother the next day, actually.
Jesus.
That sucks. Yeah. Oh, that was rough. She wouldn't be found until several months later when she was partially recovered in the woods. Her body was partially recovered, obviously, in the woods.
Ooh.
Yeah. But then, to back up a bit, we find that this pimp's man's name was Carl Drew. Sorry.
Okay.
I should have said this pimp was a man named Carl Drew.
This pimp's man's name.
Right? It's like, don't go off of what you've written. That's never, I'm not good at that sometimes.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Did a robot write this? He was running a sort of prostitution ring that had rumors of also being a satanic cult.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yay. Right into it, just like yours. No. It's very similar in ways, though. With the satanic panic and the cults. And
yeah.
You'll see. A string of savage killings had begun in October of the year before, which was 1979. The first was the death of Doreen Levesque, who was found on October 14th, 1979. So October, it started.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah.
It'll be a week after this one airs.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. She was 17 at the time and living on the streets also at the time of her death. And she had been found tied up with fishing wire, and this was pretty brutal, so like trigger warning, I guess. Her face and head area had been caved in with like a rock or some sort of stone. Yeah. Whether that means she was actually stoned to death, but they said, yeah, her face was just destroyed, basically.
Wow.
But that's pretty much all the gruesome stuff I will include about her death.
Oh, just about her death. Oh, shit.
Wait, I was like, oh, wait, do I have more of the stuff that's a little bit...
I know I've promised. Detailed. That's all. And then, like, 4 paragraphs later, I'm like, oh, shit, I forgot I put that.
I'm like, oh, God, yeah.
Never promise anything.
No. And I start to sound like an announcer that's like, more death after these messages. And I'm like, I don't want to sound like that. Oh my god.
That's how I feel after our break.
Yeah.
We'll be right back for more death. We should start saying that.
Oh no. Straight to Murder Town. Wait, do they say that? Because there's one I listened to called Small Town Murder. And I do like the way he'll say, like, when somebody gets their sentence, he'll be like, and the judge was like, fuck off and you get life, or like, fuck off, and like, he was given life. Like, I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah, it's always good when you find someone who's respectable but funny in a good way with the truth.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so I'm sorry, I was not done with that description. So Chris Hayes, who was a private investigator who arrived on the scene, or was privy to view the body, had said that this girl had a baseball bat shoved inside her.
Ooh, shit.
Yeah, found on the field. I don't know, is that crime of opportunity? Or the torture of opportunity, because the baseball bat was just there, maybe. I don't know, but it was chilling, gross detail.
Yeah.
So there's apparently a Fall Rivers docuseries that I apparently can't watch because I don't know. Maybe because I'm in Canada, but all the articles said it was out somewhere and we couldn't find it. Yeah. Pat looked for it, but
it's
Crave,
hard sometimes
Netflix,
to find
Prime. Them. Yeah. Nobody
might be able to find it on YouTube. YouTube's pretty good, I find, for documentaries. Maybe not depending how new if it's too new. But some
it might have been out since late 2020 or something.
Yeah, it might be
or
on
2021,
there.
I mean.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay, I'll try that. But as the series says, from the 60s and up until the 80s, the drug addiction rates here were way up for the juvenile female population, about 6 times more than those compared to the young men, which led to an increase in sex work to feed those addictions. Yeah.
Okay.
Quite a jump. Yeah. And just that most believe this was the case with Doreen and why she had been living on the streets and stuff.
Okay.
Oops. And the rumor was that this murder was a ritualistic killing, quote, tied to a satanic cult that existed among prostitutes and pimps in Fall River. This cult was said to offer up the women's souls to the devil, rather, as human sacrifice.
Oh my god.
Yeah, just hard left.
Yeah.
I don't know what to think of this case still, even. It's a lot. Yours was a lot. But
yeah, both of them was a lot.
This one's just also a little conflicting, I guess.
Yeah.
3 sides to every story.
Yes, just like mine. It was like...
Yeah. The cult was known to be led by a man named Carl Drew. So he was said to use his threats and apparently his Satanism to control the sex workers that were under his employ, for lack of a better term. Yeah. Next, Barbara Raposa was reported missing by her boyfriend, Andy Maltias. He told police it was probably to do with a cult of devil worshippers who controlled the local drug trade. Quote, unquote. Well, this article, quote unquote. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's pointing the finger for sure. But, interestingly enough, while the police were questioning this Andy guy, he revealed that he himself was a convicted pedophile, sexual sadist, and rapist.
Oh. Okay. Shit. It was like, why would somebody...
that came up.
Yeah, somebody be so quick to point and be like, it was them! Like, they be done it! Like,
True.
and then you're like, but you, sir, it could have been you.
Yeah, doth protest too much.
Yeah.
But, as he said, he was not a devil worshipper anymore, and he had converted to, I believe, Christianity.
Oh, okay.
That
forgives everything.
Anyway. Right? But doesn't Jesus? No. All right. Andy Maltias also said that he and Barbara had been part of the cult and that so had Doreen. And he then offered to arrange a meeting with the police and 2 other members of this supposed cult, Karen Marsden and Robin Murphy. So they agreed to the meeting. Yeah. Kind of a lot of names.
Is it like they're going undercover or they're going as cops? Do you know?
They're just gonna have these girls come to the station, I believe, on the suggestion of this other informant who's also a rapist guy.
Yeah, and pedophile.
Yeah. Fuck. Right. Shall we not forget?
Yeah, gross.
Yeah, our story, I guess, had both a little bit of that.
Yeah, that's like not even the main thing going on in the story. It's just like, and side note.
Right. Oh god.
His mom is fucked. So gross.
Yeah, that was oof. But this I really wanted to watch the series. I got confused because this was the same Karen who would later be picked up by police, terrified and running away from the Carl Drew cult leader. So she is now going to go talk to the police with this other girl, Robin Murphy.
Oh, okay. So she was gonna kind of like tell about the cult to the police.
I feel like this is the first time she must have talked to police about the cult, and then later she's picked up and she's really scared and on the run from them, but it would seem like this is the first time she said something to cops about the supposed cult and stuff like that. Yeah. As long as the source was correct, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we rely on that for everything, right?
Oh, yeah.
He's doing cat yoga over here, and he's about this long right now, just like, and his belly looks so soft, and he's all stretched out, but if I touch his belly, he's gonna attack me, but it looks so soft and floofy. And I just want to...
That was Fenrir, because I let him lay up on the couch when I was watching TV, and he just, like, stretched from, like, diagonal one end to the other.
Yeah.
Okay, so these women are a little vague and cagey about how and where they knew this Andy Maltias character from, whether it was from a cult or not. But after hours of questioning these women, Karen Marsden burst into tears. I'm so sorry. It's just him slowly entering.
I kept making eye contact with him, so he's like, "What does she want?"
Hi, Gordo.
You just almost knocked over my mic. Hi, buddy. You're so needy. I'm trying to record right now.
That was right in the mic. All right, the bloopers. Reminds me of Fuck My Work Life bloopers, where a lot of them were them yelling at their cats. Shut up, you!
We just want some pets.
Alright, he's good. I'm so sorry. So, Karen Marsden burst out that Carl Drew killed Doreen Levesque. So Carl, 26 years old at the time, was already known to police as a violent pimp.
Okay.
Good job, buddy. He had run away from his family's New Hampshire farm at the age of 14, and this was apparently after he said he was forced to wade through rotting livestock carcasses to separate the hides and the hooves for rendering.
Ew, how many of their animals died at the same time that you have to wade through them like it's a river?
Yeah, maybe just kill 2 or 3. Just do a few at a time. Yeah. I don't know.
Not enough that you can be described as wading through them.
I don't know. How many do they kill at once? Anyway.
On a small farm, probably not that many. Because you have to... Don't you have to separate them and do everything within, like, a couple hours? It's like pretty
Right,
quick.
maybe it's a small thing. I don't know.
Weird.
It's sad that his was the only like background I could seem to get because maybe he had to
Oh,
tell it when
okay.
he was explaining himself in court.
Mm.
Yeah. Karen said that Carl also claimed to be Satan himself. So not a
Oh,
demon. Like you're
yeah. Jeez.
he's just going straight to the whatever, tippy top.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this sex work ring was actually a cult. It was reported, and he was reported to have taken sex workers into the Freetown State Forest to hold rituals and supposed sacrifices. So this is what
Gross.
Karen is saying. Yes.
Mm. Okay.
She said he had threatened to inject battery acid into her veins and offer her soul to the devil should she ever betray
Oh my
him.
god, that's fucking terrible.
Yay. Poor girls. Yeah.
Yes, oh my god. And they don't
Um
have the resources to like get out of this.
yeah,
Anything.
yeah, yeah. They're struggling. And they're trying to tell
Jeez.
police and stuff. And that's what's sad about it is like, yeah, she talked to police at least a few times.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it began, yeah, it was October, the first one. And then now we're going to when Barbara's body is, she's the next one found on January 26, 1980. Well, really, there's
Oh.
only the three, so now we kind of covered it, but
Okay.
still, three very, like, definitely there was different periods in between these killings, because it was like October 1979 to like January, February 1980. Couple months, right?
Okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
fairly close together.
Yeah. It's just enough to be considered a serial killer, or
Yeah.
it's, yeah, not quite a spree killing. And then Andy Maltias called the police and said he had a psychic vision of Barbara's place of death and time and cause.
Okay.
I don't know anything more or what to make of that. But because he had those details, he was then arrested and charged with her murder. So,
Shit.
yeah, man. It's very confusing.
Oh, it's like
I'm like,
the one episode where I was telling you about Psych, the show. That's how the show
mm-hmm.
starts. He's watching the news and the guy's talking about how, I think it was arson or something, how his shop burned down, and he's like, it's terrible, blah blah blah. And he
Oh.
calls in a tip to the police, and it's like, yeah, the guy that's being interviewed on the news, it was insurance fraud, he set fire to the thing himself, or like something. And then something like that, where they're like, oh, the so-and-so, the person being interviewed is the one that did it, they're on the news right now, channel whatever. And so they
Oh
get
my
hauled
god.
into police, and he's like, thinks they just want more information because he's done this like 30 or 40 times already.
Oh,
And they haul him
really?
in, and then they charge him as being an accessory because how did he get the information? And then instead of being like, well, I'm really smart and I notice all these things and was taught this way, he's like, well, I'm a psychic. And like, yeah.
But he, in that show, he really is, right? But he just,
No,
is
he's
that the
not really
thing?
a psychic. His dad
Oh.
basically just taught, his dad was a cop, and he basically just taught him to be like super aware of his surroundings. He has a extremely good like
Oh, that's
photographic
right.
memory and stuff. So
He can read people, like you said.
yeah,
Like, that's right. I
yeah,
recall. That was, we talked about that on Patreon, because
yeah.
I just edited that.
Hmm.
Shout
Yeah.
out to our September Patreon, Yas Witches, which was a lot of
Yes.
fun.
Yeah, it was a good episode. Yeah, check
Modern
it out.
witchcraft and a different kind of Wikipedia than you're used to.
Yeah.
And why Uranus hates rules. And then, which we didn't talk about on here, but then I texted you and said, then I found out afterwards, after talking about when all the planets go in retrograde, like just a little bit, that like 6 of them were all in retrograde right now.
Yeah, and that's why the world's on fire and sucks this week.
On fire. Oh, and we were having a bunch of like glitchy issues at work with like all the systems and stuff, so we couldn't like reload people's reloadable gift cards, but we could sell them new ones, but we couldn't redeem their reward. Like everything, it was an entire company wide, like province wide like issue. It was like great. Weird. And then like people get mad at you because like customers, right? And then you're like, what would you like us to do about it? Wave our magic wand? Well, I want to tell the people above you. They already know.
They're the ones that sent me the email informing me of the problem. Like,
let me give you their personal cell phone number.
Yeah. Let me get them on the phone right now.
Anywho. Just so stupid. Arrested and charged with her murder, that was his girlfriend, if you recall. Andy and Barbara were together. Now he's charged with her murder because he said he knew where and when and how.
Jeez.
Yeah. And then Robin Murphy. Oh my God. Robin. Sorry. Robin Murphy. Robin Murphy came forward and said it was Maltias and not Drew who had. Well, whatever. This is very confusing because again, Andy Maltias is the one who's just been arrested for it. But
yeah.
She said it was definitely Andy Maltias who had raped and killed Barbara out of jealousy and left her to crawl away before driving off with Murphy. That's very confusing because it sounded like it was coming from Robin Murphy's mouth, but then it was a quote that featured her name. I'm so sorry for my problematic quoting skills.
Forgiven.
But also, I had to like do serious investigative journalist, like read 5 different articles and try to piece together like what the fucking truth was.
That's what I did. And then I'm like reading my thing and I'm like, does this make sense? Like, I don't even know. I guess we'll find out when I try and explain it to Alanna.
I know. I should like read them to Pat or something, like the Mr. Ballin guy on YouTube that does really cool mysterious dark and whatever stories.
Yeah.
He's like, I tell them to my wife before that I do them on here, and he's like, and she found this one crazy.
What I do is I'll try and do my notes and like finish them, and then I won't read, like I always read through them again, but I'll try not to read through them until like a day or two later. And then
that's good.
Because you'll forget like a bunch of stuff and then you'll read through it and be like, that sentence makes no sense. Well, that entire paragraph is like out of line in the story, and you catch so much that way because you forgot some of the little things and you won't remember like kind of the
or like it's just like also a final edit of like you say, grammar and sentence structure.
Yeah, it makes a big difference, I find, at least for mine. Yeah, this one I was doing it like I started doing it at 2 and we were going to be recording right at 3, and I was like, I never read through mine, and I read through mine, was like copying pasting whole paragraphs, like putting them 2 pages earlier and just like and so
wait, you started doing what part at 3? Reading through or putting
at 2? Because I realized then that I forgot to like read through everything the last time.
Okay. Oh, that's fair. Yeah, I know. I was still typing up last night, which basically is still coming up with a rough draft in a way. Oh my gosh. Final edits. No wonder books go through like 10 edits.
Right? Yeah.
Or
it's like, that sentence makes no sense, or that's very...
Still, sometimes something gets by them still, and you're like, what? Yeah. Okay, so after Karen's body was found in February of 1980, an informant named Carol Fletcher pointed at Carl Drew and Robin Murphy for that crime as well. Murphy told the police that the cult killed every 30 days or so on the full moon. They spoke in tongues, conjured demons, and offered human sacrifices to Satan.
Jeez.
Yep. And also, they use torture to force the victim to a maximum state of emotional arousal to make a more potent sacrifice.
Oh, that sounds awful. What the fuck?
I know, it reminds me of the Doctor Sleep group where they torture kids and then feed off their freaking life force while they're like writhing in
Yes.
pain. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so fucked up, but I don't know if it's true. Okay, because we'll see. So she's saying some of these details to the cops, this Robin Murphy. But yeah, she's like, we helped rip out her hair and fingernails. Oh yeah, this was the other gross detail, before decapitating her and kicking her head around like a soccer ball.
What the hell?
That's why I couldn't say I didn't have another gruesome fucking detail. I was like, oh, right. Yeah, it was like, okay, I hope that's not true. And then Carl Drew was tried for the murders of Donna Levesque and Karen Marsden, and he was given life with no possibility of parole. I'm guessing just mostly based on this, like, word of mouth and circumstantial type evidence, because I didn't hear much about DNA or anything in my case. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes that's hard to get in these.
Yeah. I'm guessing it must have been. And then also, it was late 70s, early 80s. There wasn't as much they could do with DNA either, but still.
Yeah, sometimes it was only like confirming what blood type somebody was.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, also, I heard a cool, like, there's weird stuff nowadays where you're like, DNA can present even differently. Say if you're a bone marrow transplant or recipient, bone marrow recipient.
Oh,
something like that. Like, it comes with its own, its DNA, and so you can, if you're a male, I think it was maybe that you could secrete their DNA after. I listened to a really cool episode on Twisted and Uncorked's Patreon, and it was about like human chimeras.
I think chimeras.
Yeah, I think it's chimeras. But anyway, the whole DNA getting fucked up if you have like a bone marrow donor.
I mean, it makes
like
sense because doesn't your bone marrow is responsible for producing a lot of the cells found in your blood?
Maybe that's what it was. It helps to replicate the DNA, and so it gets all up in there. I don't know.
Yeah. Wow.
Nutso.
I mean, I'm not surprised because they have cases of like women who in their in their like uterus, they have a different set of DNA than in the rest of their body. So sometimes their children they'll have children, and it was part of a whole thing. I can't remember what it was. They were trying to do like a paternity test because they didn't believe that this kid was like this woman's or whatever for something. I can't remember like why this came about.
They're trying to determine maternity, like who the mother was. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And they didn't, like, nobody believed that she had given birth to this kid. I don't know if it was like a mix-up hospital situation or what it was that they thought it was.
Maybe.
But so they kept testing her DNA like out of her arm over and over again, and they're like, yeah, you're not the mom, you're not the mom, you're not the mom. And then I don't know how they figured it out. And then she's like, no, like, I'm the fucking mom. And they ended up figuring out, like...
I would know.
Yeah, they ended up figuring out that, like, in her uterus or whatever is, like, a totally different set of DNA and stuff.
My God.
So when they tested that, she was a match and she was the mom. But, like, in her arm and stuff, like, she's not the mom. Like, it's so crazy. And that occurs naturally.
That is bizarre.
Well, from what I remember, it, like, occurs naturally. It's, like, not... It just doesn't happen very often, but it's possible.
Maybe we have our next paranormal Patreon topic.
Yeah.
Like, DNA conundrums and how the body... Like, we've done bizarre bodies, but that is some very crazy stuff, man.
Yeah.
Like, that reminds me of people that have told me that say their bodies... or you hear of other stories, not just people I've known, but after pregnancy, some people don't need glasses anymore, or some people develop an allergy. I literally was just working with a girl at the South office named Kelsey who said her mom got allergic to shellfish and alcohol after she had one of her kids, and she was like, I love having Caesars though, which for you Americans is like Bloody Marys with clamato juice, so it has clam in it
and alcohol.
Yes. I said, oh no, she can't have them anymore. She goes, yeah, she'll have them, but it shouldn't get all red and puffy.
She has a shot glass worth and then jabs an EpiPen in her leg.
I said, I can't
then she
even
goes,
imagine.
Worth it.
Right? I'd rather get I got pregnant and you cleared up. Like Pat's friend who I met through him, she has a son, and after she was pregnant with him, she didn't need glasses anymore. Her eyesight was like corrected. I'm like, not fair.
That one I think is like crazy. I would love Isn't that.
It? Maybe it wasn't like, say, like I have fairly bad vision, so like maybe it wasn't as bad. I don't know. But yeah, it was pretty cool. Okay. Other craziness. So Robin Murphy recanted her confession and involvement in the case in 1985, so shortly after the trial, I guess, and everything. Yeah. And has maintained her innocence ever since. And she was released in 2004 for good behavior.
Okay.
So, yes, I have a little bit more on details on that. Many people, including the director and executive producer of the goddamn documentary that I didn't get to watch.
Oh, shit.
But there were so many articles about it.
Yeah.
And it was in partnership with Blumhouse. They usually do good horror movies.
Yeah. I like the movies.
Yeah. Okay, so the guy's name is James Buddy Day, the producer guy.
That's a good name.
I know.
Yeah.
Buddy. James Buddy Day instead of Bond.
Yeah. Sounds like such an uplifting name. Like James, and then I'm a Buddy, and it's Day.
Yeah, Buddy is an interesting choice for a name, but also it's just very homey, and I like it. He believes that Carl is innocent. He basically said, I'm paraphrasing, but something like no one could look at the court transcripts, read them through as they did, and still believe that Carl was guilty.
Okay.
Yeah, and they talked to the case detectives and friends of the victims. So they did other research in the documentary and stuff, I guess. And then in a parole hearing earlier this year in 2022, 42 years after confessing to helping murder...
You caught my case of the not being able to talk. I passed it directly on to
mortar. Yeah.
I was like reading it. I was like, I'm just making words up. Moira. The Moira.
The Moira. I know, you're doing so good, and then pow.
Yeah.
Oh, it is sad though. It's like after confessing to helping murder her former girlfriend, Robin was again requesting to be released. Keep in mind, she's said that she is innocent. Because she explained also how she had, during the parole hearing most recently, how she had been sexually abused by fellow cult member Andy Maltias and was convinced that Drew had murdered Karen.
Oh, okay.
I mean, she knew he was responsible for something. I remember in that first meeting she was telling cops that he definitely had murdered Doreen. Like, I feel like...
Yeah, if he's the one leading the cult, he's involved somehow.
Yeah. She said, quote, I really wanted to make sure Carl went to jail. I really believed he killed my girlfriend, she told the Herald News. She told me he was going to kill her, and I believed him.
Yeah, if he found out she was talking to police, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
like whether or not it's like some crazy thing, like whatever she's telling them, she's still talking to police, and you're running like a sex ring / cult. Like, what do you think she's telling police?
Yeah. But I'm also like so confused. It's like, is he as guilty of this cult part, or was she making that up if she was just trying to make sure he got in jail for Karen's murder?
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't know how much evidence there was of the actual cult other than very mutilated bodies, albeit like horrific deaths. And I don't want to forget about that part, but I'm just so confused and lost with this.
Yeah, maybe like details of what happened to each person could have been confirmed. Like she was saying, like, I think you mentioned like ripping fingernails off, or like so and so's head getting cut off and kicked around. Like, was that the case when you found the body?
Yeah, how did this trial go down? That's what I'd really like to know.
Wow.
I don't have much more because it was only 5 pages, which for me is short.
That's okay. Mine was longer than I thought it would end up being.
That happens too.
Yeah.
That happens to me lots. In hindsight, Robin said she wished she had not made the deal and instead had just let the truth play out and hoped justice would have been served. She said, if Carl Drew is guilty, that's his own battle to fight. So, yeah, that's good. Maybe you should have just, not said things that weren't true on trial. During the trial. During the trial, Robin said that Drew had forced her to participate in the sacrifice of Karen. Robin also explained at her latest parole hearing how she is working through childhood trauma that caused her to seek out such unhealthy relationships.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good.
It is good. I wish, honestly, I have a little bit more, but every time I read something about the victims, I wish I had more about them because there just wasn't much that I could find.
Yeah.
Which sucks. Other than, like, obviously Robin and Karen cared about each other, and like she cared enough to be like, I want to make sure Carl goes to jail because I think he did it.
Yeah.
And she now makes decisions about who I interact with today, and I plan to carry that out for the rest of my life. She was saying at the parole hearing, or they were noting how she was never violent in prison, earned a bachelor's degree, and helped train service dogs for veterans. I wrote serviced dogs. Serviced.
Yeah.
Nope. Don't think about that too hard. But still, some believe she's just a pathological liar. And Andy Maltius eventually died in prison after being convicted for Barbara's murder. So, don't know, his truth, whatever, died with him too.
Yeah.
Oh, and I had a note on how in 1980 that there was a new life in Satanic Panic when the book was published called Michelle Remembers. That was about her childhood in a cult. Supposedly, that was also widely discredited later. So,
okay,
could have been some of the reasoning for some of the feelings at the time. And apparently a Massachusetts Innocence Program is looking into Carl Drew's case. So that's all I have on where it stands today. Yeah.
Well, I don't know, because it's like whether or not killed the people, you were still running like a sex ring, apparently. Like, I'm happy he's still in prison, at least.
Yeah. Yeah, you're known as a violent pimp. Of course the police are gonna look at you if you're known to be violent in the past, but then this is definitely a very specific type of killing, so it's really hard to say why you would need to make ritualistic killings to make your sex ring better if that's what you were doing. Whether
I think
you're
it was
like
just
practicing magic. Yeah.
Like cleaning up or like torturing them, being like, what did you tell the police? And then they just ended up dying from it, maybe.
Yeah, maybe his own, or like he had some delusions, and then you're already violent and stuff like that, and then you're just kind of like explaining that to the people you know have working under you and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like, oh yeah, I'm just a fucking crazy Satan.
Yeah.
I'm Satan. Yeah.
Anyway, oh, terrible.
Yeah, he's a douche.
Yeah, we'll have to try and find the documentary.
True. I also had to find I was supposed to find a fun fact.
Oh, I totally forgot. Yes,
I know, I did too. That's okay. I have some printed out because I love printed paper. Me telling Kelsey I had to read my notes off the freaking computer and how I don't like it. So I'm apparently old school. Okay, this one's fun but kind of creepy.
Oh, okay.
In a little, I think that's fitting for October. And it's very short. It is a human could swim through a blue Wayne's veil. I can't talk.
A blue something.
I said a blue Wayne.
Yeah,
no.
Like, what is this supposed?
A blue whale's veins. A blue whale's veins.
Ew. Is that just that they're
whale and the veins? They're so big.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Jesus.
We could just like put our whole body in, I guess.
Wow.
Like a little cave diving experience.
That's like, that's insane. I can't, like, I get blue whales are huge, but like,
right?
I don't know, I'd have to find something that was like the average size of an animal's veins relative to their body size, and then like plug in a blue whale's and see if that made sense.
It's so hard to fathom. Okay, we might have to fact check it, but I know that when you hear stuff about the blue whales, and my mom used to briefly work at a museum and had to give like one of those little talks on like they eat baleen and they don't have teeth, and they have baleen and they eat plankton and it goes through their baleen, not teeth and stuff, and then they're always like, and they're the size of like 4 freaking school buses or whatever it is, and it's just so hard to fathom. We have to like think about all these comparison things, so like I totally get what you're saying, where I'm like, that does not compute.
But it was like, even if they're that big, like, how could you swim through their veins?
I'm sure it would not be comfortable.
Oh, like a
they're
sausage
saying you could,
casing,
like,
you're just
yeah. You're like on one of those weird water slides that or like they have the top, they're enclosed. Those are kind of scary, to be honest. Oh my god, I heard about one that was a theme park that like got closed down, and it had one of those water slides, and then for some reason it had a problem with people that they were like lost teeth kept getting like embedded in the slide and then like ripping at people's skin.
Holy shit.
I think it was a podcast.
That's fucking scary.
Okay, we need to shut down theme parks. I can't believe we didn't do any creepy theme parks during abandoned places, but there are some that have gotten. It might have been Adventure Park. There's one that's famous for being shut down in like the States because it was just horrific. Creepy. Like a lawsuit park. Yeah. I'll find it.
Maybe it could be a Patreon episode, just lawsuits at parks.
Yeah.
Fucking
sorry,
teeth
guys.
shredder.
We like to put the juicy
slide.
Stuff behind the paywall. The what?
I said a teeth shredder water slide.
Oh, God. Yeah. You just like look like you gone through a cheese grater after you get out of there.
I mean, kid slides were like bad enough when we were young. Like,
oh yeah.
the metal ones that would lose all their paint and it would just become shiny and then heat up to like 5,000 degrees. When the
Yes.
sun was on it and you go down it in shorts and felt like you got road rash. Like,
Or the big ones at the fair. I saw a video of
yeah.
one of those on the like
Oh,
Instagram the other day, but it like shot people down so fast that they
yeah.
went boom, boom, and then like they
You
smacked
got
up so hard that
air.
they smacked back down, and they were like, okay, they had
Yeah.
to shut that down because people were like, I think they were like almost breaking things. I was like, oh my
My
god.
The only time, you know, the one at the water park that does that with the water and it
I think
like goes like
so.
that. I
Yeah.
think they must. It was a few years after I went on it. They did something to it. I feel like they maybe stopped doing that so much.
Oh
But
really?
the one and only time I went on it, I like hurt myself, like pulled my shoulder and stuff because I got so much air on the thing. I went off like 2 or 3 feet off the thing, and you're like 6 stories up. And I was like 3 feet off the water slide, and I like came down. Like, yeah.
Oh, straight back down onto the slide part.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
On one of like the
Yeah.
humps because you gain so much speed and you go so fast. Yeah, I was like
Yeah,
completely
you don't want
launched
to
off
do
of it.
a belly flop onto like hard
No.
plastic. Water is hard enough.
This, thankfully, they told you weren't allowed to go like head first. You had to go. So at least I was like,
Right.
I landed
And on your
like
back.
on, yeah, but oh, it hurts so bad. And yeah, I just remember my friend telling me, she's like, you got so much air. And like anybody on the ground that saw me was like screaming because they thought I wasn't gonna, because I was like flying over the
Oh my
slide
god.
and I
You could have
missed like,
gone. Yeah, if you had gone at an
yeah,
angle, you could have gone over the
a
side if it wasn't
100%.
the
And I
top part. Oh
missed
my god.
how I like landed because it like whoops you up and you're supposed to basically like just keep going down. But on the one that went
Okay.
up, I landed where the next one was supposed to come down. Like I missed an entire section of the slide.
Oh my
Like I went from the
god.
first like whoop up and I didn't land where you were supposed to, and then whoop on the next one. I landed where you're supposed to land for the second one. Like, yeah,
Some of those ones at the water park at the West Edmonton Mall are intense. That's the
yeah,
one, right, with all the big ass water slides and
yeah. It was
holy
horrifying. I never
shit.
went on it again because I like just flew.
Nope.
And it was like, oh
Nope,
my
that's
god.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I'm
was like,
good. I'm good at any of the slides that are called like kamikaze or anything like that. I'm fine. I don't need
right?
to go on those
Oh,
anymore.
yeah, and it barely had a lip. Like there was nothing to catch you. It was maybe like
Oh
a
my
few inches
god.
on either side. So yeah, if like you said, if you went
Yeah.
off to the side at all, there was nothing to grab onto. Nothing that was gonna catch you if you actually did go sideways at
Mm-hmm.
all. Like, yeah.
Damn. Glad you made it out okay.
Right? Oh, horrifying.
Wow. Okay, horror stories at water parks. Also a fun topic we could visit.
Yeah. Oh my god. Yeah, Patreon. Just like horror stories.
All right, sounds fun.
Yeah.
Next week is did we say it? Oh, no.
Is that
Dark
the
magic.
Yeah.
Oh, you were saying it to me because you picked your case. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're doing the occult.
Yeah.
Occult October, baby. Let's do it.
Yeah.
That should be
Spooky
good.
season is upon us.
Fuck yeah. We love it. All right. Thanks for listening.
Yes. Catch you next week. Bye.
All right. Keep it cryptic.
This has been Castles and Cryptids. You can listen to our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Anchor, Breaker, Pocket Cast, and our YouTube channel. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Reddit. On our website, you can listen to all of our episodes as well as view pictures for each of our segments. Check out our Patreon page to view all of our tiers and become a Patreon supporter today to unlock monthly bonus episodes and behind-the-scenes content. We are working on an Ask Us Anything. You can submit questions by social media or by email at castlesandcryptids@gmail.com. Do you have a spooky ghost story, a creepy cryptid sighting, or a thrilling true crime tale you would like to share and have us include in a future episode? Send us your listener story by social media or by email. Please include the name that you would like mentioned. Our music is by Kobe Fair. Our logo and artwork is by Antonio Garcia. Thanks for listening.